Yeah. So what am I up to? What was the question? I'm sorry. I'm trying to like
Yeah,
get
yeah,
here.
I know. Hello. So I just wanted whoever's listening to know a little bit about what it is that you're up to. And I guess I'm just going to start off with why women in alignment, because that's why we're here. That's what we're up to.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Well, why women in alignment? I've actually been kind of on the alignment journey for like the greater part of a year.
Mhm.
And yeah, alignment has just been my word for I think since the end of last year, all the way through 2022. Um, and it's had so many shapes and forms and sizes. And it just made sense. Like it was one of those things where, you see the repeating numbers, or you see the feather on the pathway, or you see a person that you hadn't seen in 20 years, but you were just thinking about them. It was like one of those synchronistic moments that I really couldn't deny.
Mm.
And yeah, that's why women in alignment. How about you?
I love that. Yeah, it's funny that you said that. I call those God's bread crumbs that line
Yeah.
up. And I had taken off to go to Hawaii back in March, and I'd been telling myself I wanted to write a book.
Okay.
And so I started writing a book called Goddess Knows She's Worth It.
Ooh, I
And
love that.
thank you. And so I wrote the first chapter, but then I started realizing this was going to be a bigger project than what I had time for, because I have clients that I coach with around the world. And, I'm getting married this week, actually.
Ooh,
And
congratulations. You got a
thank
lot going
you.
on.
Yeah. And I just moved. So I was just like, okay, how can I do this in a way that um, that I get my message out there, but I don't have to figure out the whole publishing thing. So they called me at
Yeah.
the right time.
Yeah.
And I'd been asked a number of years ago to write a chapter, but it
Uh-huh.
didn't feel like at the time, like that was something I really wanted to do. It was like their idea, not my idea. Now it's my idea. And I love doing it. In fact, I'm
Yeah.
realizing that having a timeline is very effective in getting things done, because I was like, oh, dang, and so revealing. You might have found the same thing as you were writing your chapter. I just
Yeah.
felt like I had bubble after bubble popping up and going, wow, Carrie, you have insights left and right about what, like looking back over my life and the choices I made, that alignment choices, and how did I find alignment? So it really helped me to be it's like the focus in which I began to, or the filter in which I began to see
Yeah.
um, how my life has helped me to get where I am today. How about you? What
Yeah.
what was the process of actually writing it out and sharing your story?
Yeah. It was actually a smoother process than I would have anticipated. But I'd actually kind of writing out my kind of talking points and my kind of speech, if you will, because of a few local events that I had been doing. And my topic was how to create alignment with your body. So I
Hmm.
had already done kind of a little bit of the ideation and trying to, logically sort ideas and really just kind of get some of those thoughts out. I hadn't I hadn't shared as much as I did in the chapter, but the process itself was really, really smooth. Like I said, the um, the writing itself was good. It was cathartic,
Mm-hmm.
and there were some tears because I didn't realize there were still a couple of layers of healing that needed to be made. But yeah, it was really good. And like you said, you received a phone call and you knew another book is in you, or at least another couple of books are in you. And this just made sense now because, effort wise, understanding the process to get a book in print, I think that can be really daunting. And yeah, the stars just align because a chapter is way less daunting than an entire 200-page book. But now we know how doable it is because the ideas flow just
Oh yeah.
effortlessly. So Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for your book and I'm excited for my book too, because I've got several ideas.
Yeah. And well, and it's funny you said that because I think that it wasn't that I had writer's block. In fact, I was like putting it out there on the page, and the problem was actually condensing it into the
Yeah,
requirement for, I don't know what, 1,000 words or whatever it was that we had. It
yeah,
was like, no, but there was much more to the story. So like
yeah.
any concise paper that you're writing, it's uh, having it concise. It's just, it really punches a level of like the pictures, the metaphors, the
Hmm.
just getting it to the point. Because I was talking about so this whole concept of alignment. I said, so what is it that I teach? What is it that I primarily work with women, but every once in a while I work with men in like a group setting.
Hmm.
And I wanted women to realize that they are the decision makers or the authors of their life. Like they're at choice
Yeah.
point. And so I shared in the book how I had gone through, I'll call it a long-term marriage that ended up ending up in divorce as a result of financial betrayal and stuff, and how really I betrayed myself first by not speaking up.
Mm. Hmm.
I'm an intuitive, so not listening, not taking
Hmm.
action based on what I knew, I just kind
Hmm.
of sweep it away.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, what did you learn through the process of writing your chapter?
Oh, so many things. I mean, first and foremost, like how far I've come. First and foremost, how far I've come,
Yeah.
because um so in my chapter I wrote about really it's centered kind of around the diagnosis that I received in 2012, and kind of how my life changed a few years prior to that, but how all the things I had to change and shift and kind of just flip my life upside down because of what my body was doing.
Mm,
So that was kind of like, that's like the crux of the story. But really being able to find the lesson in kind of in all of that.
mhm.
And I find it ironic that, well, ironic, but also perfect, because we know how the universe works.
Yeah.
Um, that, some of my lessons within this were, listen to your body, slow down, um, listen to your intuition, find your intuition, trust yourself, trust your intuition. Like those are all the things that I've had to work through, but those are also the things that I help people with, with their health, with their bodies, as a coach, as a healer. So the process really, really illuminated how far I've come, because for a number of years, I couldn't say out loud, unless it was to like a close family member or my doctor,
Mhm.
that I had a diagnosis, or that I had been diagnosed with something. Um, because there was so much shame and guilt and fear and anger, and like there's so many things that are built up, around that. And it took me a while to kind of process that. And like I said, be able to say it out loud outside of the immediate sphere of people that knew. And like literally on one hand, I could tell you the people that knew. So it's almost like I was leading this double life of, someone who had it together, and someone, who could just push, push, push and do whatever you needed them to do. And then when I'd come home, like I'd collapse on the couch. So just how far I've come as a person, as a friend, as a coach, as a coworker, just in all facets of life. Just, 10 years is a long time, but really it can be a blip on the radar as well. So
Yeah. I
just
love
the
that.
growth.
So
Yeah.
I'm curious then how you would define alignment.
Yeah. So today I define alignment, because
Yeah.
the definition has changed over time. Today I define alignment um, as having flow with my body,
Mm,
and having flow between my internal and external environment, so my body and my surroundings. um, Having confidence in my intuition
mm,
and consulting my intuition, so kind of trusting that it will guide me, and just knowing that I can get answers from myself, from my intuition, from like, my team, or however you want to frame it, um, just knowing that that is there and that there's flow and there's possibility, because I wasn't always like that. So yeah, alignment to me is just kind of that flow and the willingness to, trust that things are going to work out, are working out, that we're supported, all that good stuff.
Mm.
What about you? How would you define alignment?
Yeah, it's funny because when I asked the question, I had to ask myself,
Yeah.
what it all means. But I love the way you're saying the flow and the confidence and feeling supported by the universe. I would say,
Yeah.
well, the work that I do with my clients is asking them, like, what are your highest ideals, our values, and your vision and your purpose, so that they can align. And so alignment for me is knowing that we live in an inside out world, meaning that we get to define who we get to be in the world as we go. And, we've been, how do we want to say, we've been programmed to be human doers.
Yes.
And instead I invite my clients to be human beings, which means
Yes.
like, I know that when I come from a place of being a passionate, compassionate, loving leader in all areas of my life, because those are some of my highest values and ideals, then my life, and I like the word flows, my life flows from that I have an impact, that I chose. And if I see something other than that on my radar, in my environment, I get to ask myself, so what can I learn from that? Is that, it's not necessarily, I'm trying not to resist it so much, even though that I'm not perfect at that, but asking myself, okay, so that's not the direction I'm going. And I'll say, for example, toxic people or toxic situations, I'll just say that's not my gig. But I will say, so what can I learn from that? Well, I prefer to be with people who are high vibe and who have a high level of compassion and who are conscious and are wanting to build a more thriving planet. That's what I just noticed about myself.
Yeah. I totally identify with that. Do you have like telltale signs of when you are or are not like aligned or feeling in alignment?
Yeah, two things, I think. I feel a level of constriction, like, and it's more like a kinesthetic kind of body feel. Like when I'm feeling in flow, when I'm feeling like the universe is like singing, right, humming along, there's a sense of spaciousness. If there's a sense of flow, my body feels more open, my heart space feels more open. And when I feel more contracted, that's like, oh, I'm trying to contract to, I don't know, meet expectations, or I don't know, it just doesn't feel like I'm in alignment. Or I start feeling stressed out. How about you? How do you know when you're in or out of alignment?
Yeah, the kind of stress and the overwhelm, that's a really big key. Also just feeling like a stagnancy or a feeling of like being stuck. Like when you're doing the things that make you feel good, and you're talking to people, you're helping people, you're watching a really cool show, you're cooking for yourself, like you're doing the self-care, like you're doing things to help you get in alignment. There's just a flow and an effortlessness that happens. And like things just happen automatically. But I noticed that when I don't have that feeling, like I'm efforting, I feel like I'm forcing things, and it feels like I have to put a little more effort into things. I know something is off. I know, alignment is off. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm willing to even look more at that. Like when you say efforting, because sometimes I get impatient, and I'm like, well, no, this work needs to work on my timeline, right? But I'll give you an example of this. Like, so I've been wanting to do a retreat, in-person retreat, because I've been doing a lot of online work, and maybe you have too over the past couple of years, right? And so I've done a couple in-person retreats, but my girlfriend said, she bailed. She says, it's not going to work with my timeline. And I said, oh, well, this is a domestic retreat. I can do it myself. So I did. And it flowed. Like I created my landing page in record time. The images came through. The people I was supposed to invite came through. I was like, oh, this feels so good. Because
Yeah.
in the past, I've had the question mark in the back of my head, like, I don't know how to create a landing page,
Yeah.
but I guess I do.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you did it. There's proof.
I did it. I just said, okay,
Yeah.
if I did make one, how could I do it? So it
Yeah.
came in flow. And then I'm realizing that I'm getting feedback from the universe where people are all like, well, tell me more about that. I'd
Yeah.
love to go. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I love when that happens.
yeah, it feels
Yeah.
good, huh?
Yeah. The one thing that I noticed also is kind of when I'm in flow, or when I feel like I'm more in alignment, I I see things
Huh.
that I might not notice on a like normally when I'm kind of just like milling about.
Huh.
So I might think I would be constricted, or I might think, there's only A or B option. But in reality, there's, C, D, E, F, G. It's just because I'm so focused on doing it a certain way that I'm missing everything else, like all the other options and possibilities that are available to me.
Yes.
And I've found that just surrendering, although I that's like a double-edged sword type of word with me, because it's like almost a joke at this point. Because people say surrender and trust the universe, and all kind of airy fairy, but like that's literally one of the hardest things to do, is surrender. Because I don't know about you, but like I needed to like literally orchestrate everything
Uh-huh.
up until recently. I was the person that you went to solve all the problems, to find all the information, to hold it together, to like just I was it. And with that, like, you get a whole bunch of skills, but it's exhausting because you're always on. You're always, there's obligations for other people. And I could orchestrate anything. Like, you give me a couple of days and I can pull anything off, but it's like, at what cost?
Mhm.
So what I realized is, again, one of my lessons is surrendering and just letting things be, because I don't always have the best answer in my head. Like, so many other possibilities are out there other than that A and B, if I
Ah,
just let them present themselves.
it's so funny you were mentioning this because
Yeah.
I totally relate to this. One of the things I
Yeah.
wrote in my chapter was I used to feel, so I had asked my spiritual director, I said, isn't there a check sheet for this process? And we laughed
Mhm.
until we almost peed our pants because we were just like, I was just thinking, I'm not the first person who's gone through a divorce. There must be a check sheet, right? And
Yeah.
and what I began to realize through the process was the process of saying, and I know I have an issue with surrender too, but show me.
Mhm.
And by simply saying, show me, the universe
Mhm.
miraculously finds ways in which to, like knock on the door. I'll give you an example. I didn't put this in the
Yep.
chapter, but
Yep.
I said, there must be a way that I can go through divorce and keep my family intact. Like, so it's not this
Yeah.
contentious kind of thing going on. So
Yep.
I found the process of mediation, and then I found the option of collaborative practice. One of my girlfriends,
Mhm.
beloved, is actually a collaborative practice lawyer. So I thought,
Okay.
this is brilliant. It
Yeah.
doesn't cost a lot of money. There's not a lot of tension. You both sit down with your people, and it's like mediation in a way. It's an upper
Mhm.
level of mediation.
Okay.
But I would never have known that existed, right?
Yeah.
Unless I said the prayer, show me. And then the
Yes.
doors opened and I was like, oh, that was like
Yeah.
behind a hidden door I didn't even know existed. And I
Yeah.
find that when we calm down the nervous system and
Mhm.
we think more clearly, right? And
Mhm.
that's probably some of the work that you do, because I know it's some of the work that I do, is
Mhm.
calming down the nervous system. So then the lights go on again. So like
Yes.
the synapses can have more space, I guess, to see other possibilities. In fact, I've called
Yeah.
myself a chief possibility officer for a number of years
Oh, I love that.
because I help people to see possibilities where they didn't know
Yeah.
that there were possibilities. I'm
Yes.
curious, how do you help
Yes.
people? And I'm going to sneeze, so give me a second.
Yeah. Okay. How do I help people? So yeah, I mean, in very similar ways. So my primary goal is to help people become more comfortable in their skin. And what I mean by that is, I work with people who have medical things that they're working through, body issues that they can't understand, but are in dire straits looking for answers. Stressed out professionals who are trying to find heads from tails because everything just seems so overwhelming. I help people kind of find the calm in the storm, but also connect the invisible dots. So I like to mix energy and science. I feel like they make a really good team. And like my background, like I have a kinesiology degree, but I also have sorts of, all sorts of energy healing certifications as well.
Uh-huh.
So I merge kind of all those things because I've seen an experience within my own self that science is amazing. Like the body is absolutely amazing, 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 amazing. But our body responds to energy. So if we don't understand the energetic components, that could be factoring into some things that we're experiencing in our bodies, in our lives, then it's almost like we're doing ourselves a disservice because we're missing complete layers of information that could be contributing. So I help people connect the invisible dots. I help people feel more comfortable in their skin. I also help people see the possibilities that they might not be able to see because all they know is their current reality. So to know that, a couple of limiting beliefs can be reprogrammed and you start believing that you can heal, you start believing that, you're worthy of the relationship or you're worthy of the boundary that you're trying to hold. That can go a long way. So yeah, it's all about empowerment, feeling more comfortable, having the flow in our lives, and understanding that we have a say in what happens to us. Because for a long time I didn't. Like I said, the whole diagnosis situation, I was convinced that I'd be on medication my entire life because that's the only story I knew. I didn't have any proof that people didn't do that. I didn't have any proof that people could heal themselves. I didn't have any proof that mindset was important. So exposing people to new and different things just completely opens the world up.
So many things of what you just said. I didn't realize how similar our work is, really.
Yes,
So,
indeed.
so the things that stood out for me is when you talked about three things, actually. You provide calm in the midst of a storm, like connecting the invisible dots that help people to see. I'm guessing the invisible dots are both, like the work that I do also is I see everything is interconnected. So we're mind, we're body, we're spirit, and we live in a soup of energy, right? So, and we are energy bodies primarily.
Yes.
I'd like to share a story actually that was really interesting. So I recently had a energy session with somebody. Actually, it was kind of I do a couple different modalities. One is narrative, which means restoring any sense of victimhood into like a hero story. And so I did a blend of that and energy work. And he said to me, "How did you know that my knee was the issue?" Because the knee was keeping him from moving forward. And I said, "Actually, I didn't know. I asked, show me." And your body showed me that it was along the kidney meridian and then it was kidney point 10. So I use tuning forks to activate that point. So it opens up the blockages. And he's like, wow. He goes, and we were reprogramming a belief that'd been held in his mind body. And so he did clearly a belief that he didn't know that was holding him back, and hence was having, I'll call it emotional ups and downs as a result. So he's like, wow. He goes, you pinpointed a couple things, and then it's like his body felt more relaxed. He felt more calm at choice. Like you were saying, I think bringing people back to their center point. So they're feeling like, if I think about like the different chakras, like feeling grounded in their pelvic region, having their heart open so that they can access their sense of passion and purpose and their voice and their intuition and being connected to source. I'm guessing both of us are just tuning up the physical body, opening the inner channels so that people can be I call it be superhuman, really, be able
Yeah.
to, because most people think that walking around on autopilot is living. That is not living.
Oh, that's not living. That is not living. Yeah, it's interesting. So I'm glad you shared that because I yeah, so we have similar approaches, but almost opposite.
Mm,
So if someone were to come to me and say, so if someone would probably come to me and say, I'm having a problem with my knee, and then I would understand, okay, well, the knee is connected to blah, blah, blah. Okay, where, what is like the kinetic chain? Like what's at what's above it, what's below it?
mm.
What are the things that are connected to it? And I'd get a little bit more of kind of their background, their story. And then I would look at emotions and beliefs and past lives and kind of things that come up for me intuitively around, okay, could they be storing something here? Did, something impact this? Is it purely physical? Is it energetic? So yeah, it's interesting. Like it's
But
similar, but not similar. It's kind of,
well,
it's kind of like opposite.
but here's the interesting thing. He didn't come to me saying his knee hurt.
No, he didn't.
No, he just came to me saying, okay, I want to have greater, how did he say it? Greater clarity, and ability to navigate change. And these are some of the patterns that were stored in his body. It just happened to be along the kidney meridian.
Okay.
And he goes, how did you know it was my knee? And he goes, I've had issues with my knee. And I was like, I didn't know. But your body knows. Your body knows.
Absolutely.
What are the pieces
Absolutely.
that need to be connected so that you can live with a greater sense of, I call it choice points. So you can be at choice. And hence what I think about that is that we're free. So I just want to say, I will need to wrap within the next five minutes. So what would you like our listeners to know in closing?
Oh, so many things. Okay, let me pick.
Yeah.
Well, so we are doing this because of the Women Living in Alignment book. So what I would like people to know is the Women Living in Alignment book is a collaboration project. It's a labor of love for me, I know for many of us, and it is launching on November 2nd. So I mean, that's how Carrie and I connected, is through the book. So I would just say, contact one of us to learn more about the book. And if you'd like to get a copy, contact one of us.
And I think I'd like the listeners to also know that there is a book summit coming up. Well, I don't know if they even call it a book summit, but it's a summit, which each one of us are taking an opportunity to be interviewed and chatted up. And it was really powerful having that conversation with Sue. And so that if you want to sample, and they have that ebook that's going to be coming out too, and participating with that. So I'd like to be able to put that in our comment section, like the link to the summit
to sign up.
And the link to, if people are interested in getting one of the books, because I can't wait to read those chapters. I think we're going to have the book in hand like the beginning of November. Is that correct?
Yeah, it could be as soon as next week, or it maybe later this week. It could be as soon. Yeah.
Yay.
I'm excited.
I'm excited too. And I'm excited for us to have an opportunity to support each other as we move forward and help people live. I call it live with a juicy sense of aliveness.
Yeah. I love that. That's a good way to close.
I love it. Thank you so much for your time, Shannon.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. So live